the mother of shadows. Long before the village of Okuta was founded, when the earth was still raw and restless, famine struck the land. The skies dried up. The rivers shrank to mud. The soil cracked like broken pottery, and the people starved. Among them was a desperate man named Isilo. His wife was heavy with child, but she had eaten nothing for days. In the dead of night, when hunger gnawed at his bones and madness clouded his mind, he staggered into the black forest, searching for anything, roots, berries, even bark. There, in the deepest part, he heard a voice. It was not human. "Plant a seed watered with blood, and I shall give you what you seek." The voice slithered like smoke, heavy and cold. Isilo looked down and saw a strange seed lying at his feet, dark and pulsing as though alive. He obeyed. He slit his child's throat before it could even draw breath, letting the blood seep into the soil. From that cursed soil sprouted a tree. It grew tall within hours, its bark twisting into faces that screamed but had no sound, mouths frozen in eternal agony. Its branches clawed at the sky, and its roots spread like black veins across the ground. This was the Tree of Whispers, and it was hungry. Generations passed. Villages rose, and Okuta grew strong. But the forest where the Tree of Whispers stood was avoided. Parents warned children never to wander near, for they said if you listened too closely, the tree would call your name. Yet not everyone obeyed. Mama Zuberi was not always old. Once, she was young, beautiful, and full of laughter. She had married young, and her womb carried life 3 times. But all 3 times her children slipped away, never breathing beyond their first cry. Her grief drove her mad. One night, barefoot and weeping, she wandered into the black forest. And there, beneath the monstrous tree, she heard voices. "Poor mother," they hissed. "You do not have to suffer. Give us children not your own, and we will give you life. We will make you beloved. We will never let you be forgotten." Zuberi, broken, desperate, empty, accepted. From that night, she changed. She aged, but slowly, unnaturally. Her beauty withered into a kindly face, her eyes sunken but soft. When she returned to Okuta, she became known as Mama Wawatoto, the mother of children. She cooked porridge for the hungry, taught the little ones riddles and songs, and told stories by the fire. Every child loved her, every parent trusted her, but none knew her secret. Each moon, she returned to the Tree of Whispers, bringing with her shadows stolen from children who slept too close or who lingered too long in her arms. She fed the tree, and in return, it fed her life. Years turned into decades. Children still loved Mama Zuberi, but strange things began to happen. A boy named Lemu fell sick after visiting her, pale and trembling, though no illness could be found. A girl said she dreamed of voices calling her name from inside a dark tree. And sometimes, parents swore they saw their children's shadows stretch strangely at dusk, as though being tugged by invisible hands. But whenever doubt arose, Mama Zuberi wept with such sincerity that the village scolded anyone who accused her. "She is a blessing to us," they said. "Would you insult the woman who has raised half our children on her lap?" And so, the whispers died. Then came Amara. She was unlike anyone Okuta had seen before, tall, graceful, her beauty radiant like dawn. Her skin glowed bronze in the sun, her long hair woven with shells that clicked like whispers when she walked. She arrived with her husband and their 2 children, Chike, a curious boy of 7, and Nia, a shy little girl of 5. The village welcomed them warmly. And of course Mama Zuberi was the first to hold Amara's children. She kissed their cheeks, pressed fruits into their hands, and sang them songs. They laughed in her arms. Amara smiled, at first. But Amara was not blind. She saw how Chike grew pale after spending time in Mama Zuberi's hut. She saw how his shadow sometimes lagged behind his feet, dragging just a heartbeat slower than his step. She saw how, in the evenings, little Nia would wake crying, whispering, "The tree is calling me." Amara's heart hardened. Something was wrong. One moonless night, when the world was silent, Amara followed Mama Zuberi. The old woman shuffled slowly through the village, clutching a basket. Her back was bent, her steps cautious, but her pace quickened as she entered the black forest. Amara kept to the shadows. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The trees around them seemed to lean inward, their branches groaning like old bones. Then, there it was, the Tree of Whispers. It towered high, impossibly tall, its bark glistening as though wet with blood. Faces writhed across its surface, some weeping, some silent, some screaming with mouths stretched wide. Its branches twisted like claws, and its roots curled outward, pulsing faintly like veins. Amara's breath caught. Mama Zuberi dropped her basket before the tree. Inside lay a small doll, crudely carved, and beside it, a lump of darkness writhing like smoke, a shadow. The tree groaned. Its bark split and faces opened their mouths. A low sigh filled the forest, like 1,000 voices exhaling at once. The shadow was sucked into the trunk and the faces smiled. Amara's hands trembled. She had seen enough. The next morning, Amara's eyes carried no peace. She watched her children as they played by the cooking fire. Little Chike built castles of stones, while Nia hummed and braided grass into tiny ropes. But Amara's heart was heavy. She remembered the way the Tree of Whispers had moaned, the way its faces shifted, feeding on the stolen shadow. She remembered Mama Zuberi's bent form, her lips moving in silent prayer to the evil trunk. That evening, when her husband, Olani, returned from the fields, she spoke. "Something is wrong here," she whispered. Olani frowned. "You have been uneasy ever since we arrived." "What troubles you?" "It is Mama Zuberi," Amara said. "She is not what she seems. I followed her last night into the black forest, and I saw a tree, unlike any tree that should live in this world. She gave it something, a shadow. It was alive." Olani laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. "A tree? Shadows? Woman, you frighten yourself with dreams." Amara's jaw tightened. "Do not dismiss me." "I know what I saw. If we are not careful, she will take our children." Olani fell silent. His gaze shifted to their sleeping little ones, and though his pride resisted, a shiver crept down his spine. Days passed, but Amara's suspicion only grew. She noticed that children who spent too much time with Mama Zuberi often returned with strange habits. One girl began murmuring to herself, repeating words no one understood. A boy began sleepwalking, wandering toward the forest at night, his eyes open but empty. The parents dismissed it at first. "Children dream strange things," they said. "Mama Zuberi is a blessing, not a curse." But Amara's gaze pierced deeper. One afternoon, while pounding millet, she whispered to a neighbor, "Do you not see your son's shadow? It bends wrong in the sun." The woman shuddered, then shook her head. "Do not speak such things. Mama Zuberi has raised us all. Without her, we would be nothing." Fear of truth kept their lips sealed. Meanwhile, in the dark forest, the Tree of Whispers grew restless. It had been planted with blood, and blood it demanded. Shadows were only its food. Souls were its true delight. The longer Mama Zuberi served it, the more it whispered into her ears. On stormy nights, when lightning split the sky, she sat beneath its crooked branches, her wrinkled hands spread on the earth, whispering, "I have obeyed, I have served." And the tree replied in 1,000 voices, Your debt is not yet paid. We gave you life. Now give us what is most precious." Mama Zuberi trembled, her wrinkled face cracked with fear. She had fed the tree countless shadows, but it was not enough. The tree wanted more. It wanted the innocent blood of children. That moon, the whispers became unbearable. They hissed in her sleep, slithered into her thoughts, pounded in her ears until she could no longer ignore them. "Bring us the children of Amara," the voices said. "They are pure. Their souls will satisfy us for a century." Mama Zuberi's heart twisted. She had grown fond of the children, Chiki's curiosity, Naya's shy smile. But the tree's power bound her. She could not refuse. So she began to weave her plan. She invited Amara's children to her hut more often, offering them sweet cakes, roasted groundnuts, little wooden toys. "Stay with me tonight," she crooned. "Your mother is tired." "Let me watch over you," Amara, however, refused. Her instincts sharpened. "They will sleep with me," she said firmly, pulling her children close. Mama Zuberi's lips curved into a thin smile, but inside, her rage boiled. The tree was waiting. It would not be denied. One night, as the village slept beneath the silver gaze of the moon, Mama Zuberi crept silently to Amara's hut. Her staff tapped softly on the ground. She whispered words too old to be remembered, and the door creaked open. The children lay side by side, their small chests rising and falling in slumber. Mama Zuberi's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the moonlight. She stretched her hand, long and crooked, toward Chike's shadow. The shadow stirred, like smoke caught in a breeze. It began to peel away from the boy's body, dragging slowly across the floor. But Amara was no ordinary woman. She awoke with a start, as though her spirit had been warned. Her eyes locked onto Mama Zuberi, who froze mid-act, caught like a thief. Amara's voice shook the silence. "You dare touch my children?" The old woman snarled, her gentle mask dropping. Her voice was no longer sweet but sharp, scraping like stone. "They are not yours to keep." "The tree has chosen." Amara lunged forward, grabbing her son and daughter into her arms. The room seemed to darken, as though a cloud had passed over the moon. Mama Zuberi lifted her staff. Shadows coiled around it like snakes, striking toward Amara. The hut trembled. Pots crashed. The children screamed. But Amara stood firm. Her voice rang out, clear and strong. "You have lived by stealing from others. You will not steal from me." The shadows hissed, lashing at her. But something glowed from within Amara, her spirit, fierce and untamed. The shadows recoiled as though burned. Mama Zuberi staggered back, her face twisted in disbelief. "You... what are you?" Amara's eyes blazed. "A mother!" The struggle in Amara's hut shook the silence of Okuta. Neighbors stirred, dogs barked. Soon men and women rushed with torches, pushing aside the curtain of the doorway. What they saw froze their blood. Mama Zuberi stood in the center, her kindly mask torn away. Shadows coiled around her like smoke, her eyes burning red in the firelight. And across from her, Amara held her children close, her body glowing faintly, her spirit blazing with a light that pushed the shadows back. Gasps filled the hut. "Is this true?" the villagers cried. Amara's voice thundered. "She feeds the tree of whispers. She steals the shadows of our children." The villagers turned to Mama Zuberi, their beloved mother of children. But the truth was written plainly, Cheek's shadow trembling unnaturally at his feet, Nia's face pale and frightened, the staff in Zuberi's hands dripping darkness. The whispers of suspicion that had been buried for years now rose in a single breath. "She has cursed us. She is the reason our children grow weak. She is no mother. She is a witch." The villagers seized Mama Zuberi. She screamed and fought, but their fury was greater than her strength. "Take her to the forest," Amara commanded. "Let the truth face the light of fire." So they dragged her beneath the moonlight, across the cracked paths, until they reached the black forest. The trees groaned as though alive, and at its heart stood the Tree of Whispers. It loomed impossibly tall, its bark shifting with faces that twisted and moaned, its roots pulsing faintly like black veins. The torches shivered in the villagers' hands as they saw it for the first time. "It was never a story," one whispered. "It was real all along," another breathed. Mama Zuberi fell to her knees, her hands clutching the soil. "Please," she cried to the villagers. "I only did what I had to. The tree gave me life when the gods gave me none. Without it, I am nothing." But the tree itself answered. Its bark split with a sickening crack, and 100 mouths opened. A groan rolled through the night, heavy and thunderous. "Your debt is not yet paid, Zuberi." The villagers stepped back in terror as the roots began to stir. They coiled upward, slithering across the ground like serpents. Mama Zuberi screamed, "No! I served you. I brought you shadows. I gave you everything you asked." But the faces on the bark only grinned wider. The voices spoke as one. "You gave us what was not yours. Now we take back what is." The roots lashed upward, wrapping around her arms and legs. She thrashed, shrieking as they dragged her toward the trunk. "Help me!" she cried to the villagers. "I loved your children." But no one moved. Mothers pulled their little ones close. Fathers gripped their spears tighter, and Amara's voice rang steady. "You were never a mother. You were a thief of souls." With one final scream, Mama Zuberi was pulled into the bark. Her wrinkled face stretched across its surface, frozen in eternal agony, another mouth in the chorus of the damned. The villagers trembled, staring at the monstrous tree. But Amara lifted her torch high. "Burn it!" One by one, torches were thrown onto the roots, onto the bark, onto the gaping mouths. The flames licked greedily upward, crackling, roaring. The tree wailed, 1,000 voices shrieking, howling, begging. Shadows spilled out, racing into the sky like smoke torn free. The fire consumed it slowly, its roots thrashing, its faces melting, until finally, with a terrible groan, the Tree of Whispers collapsed into ash. The forest fell silent. The villagers stood together, breathless, watching the embers glow. Then, one by one, they turned to Amara. Mothers bowed their heads. Fathers placed their spears at her feet. Children clung to her dress, whispering, "You saved us." From that day on, the tale spread of the woman who defied the Mother of Shadows, who exposed the cursed tree, and who saved her children from the hunger of an ancient evil. But some nights, when the wind howled through the grasslands, the villagers swore they could still hear a voice weeping faintly in the ashes. The voice of Mama Zuberi, mourning the children she could never bear, bound forever to the whispers of the dark. If you want more tales rooted in African myth, folklore, and mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.